to work before 10 if you're a musician. So we started at 10. We promised Michael Tretov that he would always have.
At 78, ABBA's Benny Andersson finally confirms what we thought all along. Benny Andersson, born on December 16, 1946, in Stockholm, Sweden, is best known as one of the founding members of the legendary pop group ABBA. Before ABBA, he played keyboards in the Swedish band Hepstars, often referred to as the Swedish Beatles. Together with Björn Ulvaeus, he formed a songwriting partnership that produced timeless hits such as Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, and Fernando. Beyond ABBA, Andersson explored folk and orchestral music and co-composed musicals like Chess and Christina from Duvemåla. His career reflects versatility, blending pop, classical, and traditional Swedish sounds, leaving a lasting global influence. Roots of greatness. Before becoming one of the masterminds behind ABBA, Benny Andersson's musical journey began with a bold step at just 18 years old. In 1964, he joined Hepstars, a Swedish rock band that would soon be hailed as the Swedish Beatles. Known for their high energy and charisma, the group quickly rose to prominence in Sweden's pop scene, and Benny became not only their keyboardist, but also one of their most creative forces. During his time with Hepstars, Andersson showcased an early knack for songwriting. His compositions like Sunny Girl and Wedding were not just hits. They topped Swedish charts and became anthems for a generation. These songs displayed his ability to blend catchy melodies with emotional depth, laying the foundation for his later success with ABBA. The band's popularity gave Benny invaluable experience with live performances, where he honed his stage presence and learned the power of connecting with audiences. But his role extended beyond the stage. Behind the scenes, Andersson was deeply engaged in the studio process, developing a keen sense for production and arrangement. This period allowed him to experiment with sounds, polish his skills as a composer, and understand the intricacies of making music that resonated with listeners. By the late 1960s, his reputation had grown to the point where he was regarded as the musical brain of Hepstars, a title that foreshadowed his pivotal role in ABBA. More importantly, Hepstars provided Andersson with the confidence and vision to think bigger. It was during this time that he crossed paths with Björn Ulvaeus, setting the stage for one of the most iconic songwriting partnerships in music history. Looking back, Benny's years with Hepstars were not just a launchpad. They were the training ground where he mastered the tools of his craft and discovered his lifelong mission: to create music that moved the world. The birth of ABBA after establishing his name with Hepstars. Benny Andersson's career entered a defining chapter when fate introduced him to Björn Ulvaeus in 1966. The two young musicians instantly discovered a strong creative connection. Both were eager to experiment, and soon they began writing songs together, fusing pop, folk, and rock influences. This collaboration wasn't just casual. It laid the groundwork for what would become one of the most legendary songwriting partnerships in modern music. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, Andersson and Ulvaeus were honing their craft, penning songs that showcased their melodic instincts and lyrical flair. During this period, Andersson's knack for sophisticated arrangements merged with Ulvaeus's talent for memorable hooks. Their joint efforts produced not only commercially appealing music, but also innovative sounds that pushed the boundaries of Swedish pop. These years were filled with trial, error, and artistic growth, providing the perfect training ground for their future success. The turning point came when their musical partnership expanded to include two extraordinary vocalists, Agnetha Fältskog and Annie Frid-Lyngstad, Frida. Their powerful voices and dynamic stage presence perfectly complemented Benny and Björn's songwriting. Together, the four formed a new group, ABBA, an acronym from the first letters of their names. What made this lineup so unique was the seamless blending of talents, Andersson and Ulvaeus composing and arranging, while Agnetha and Frida delivered unforgettable vocal harmonies that became ABBA's signature. In 1974, ABBA's big break arrived at the Eurovision Song Contest in Brighton, England, performing Waterloo. The group stunned audiences with their energy, charm, and a song that redefined what a Eurovision entry could be. ABBA didn't just win the competition, they transformed it, proving that Eurovision could launch true international stars. From that moment, ABBA exploded onto the global stage, with Waterloo topping charts across Europe and beyond. For Benny Andersson, this victory marked the culmination of years of persistence and artistic evolution. What began with the boyish excitement of playing keyboards in Hep Stars had now become a global phenomenon. Yet, more than the fame, ABBA's birth symbolized the power of collaboration. It was the fusion of Benny's musical depth, Björn's lyrical clarity, and the voices of Agnetha and Frida that created a sound the world would never forget. Sound without spotlight. Benny Andersson's contribution to ABBA and popular music at large cannot be overstated. While many remember the group for its catchy choruses and glittering stage presence, Andersson was the architect behind much of their enduring sound. His approach to songwriting and arranging was meticulous, treating every piece of music like a carefully designed structure. He built songs layer by layer, focusing on harmonies, instrumental textures, and a sense of timelessness. This method gave ABBA's music a richness that continues to resonate across decades. One of the most distinctive aspects of Andersson's style is the way he infused brightness with melancholy, a quality often referred to as Swedish melancholia. Even in ABBA's most upbeat hits, there is often an undercurrent of longing, regret, or bittersweet emotion. This duality gave the music a unique character. It could make listeners dance and cry at the same time. In Knowing Me, Knowing You, Andersson's melodic sense captures the sorrow of a relationship ending, blending catchy hooks with an unmistakable sadness. Similarly, in Fernando, the arrangement balances grandeur with nostalgia, pulling listeners into a world of memory and reflection while still being a song people could hum joyfully. Andersson's talent extended beyond melody. He was a master of arrangements, combining piano, strings, guitar, and layered vocals into a seamless whole. His compositions often resembled mini symphonies, compact yet emotionally expansive. Each song had an internal logic, a sense of journey and resolution that made them not just pop hits, but enduring works of art. For Andersson, every note mattered. He once remarked that a song doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to feel inevitable, as if it couldn't exist any other way. Beyond ABBA. Andersson carried this philosophy into his later projects, including musicals like Chess and Mamma Mia. His ability to craft melodies that were both simple and emotionally layered ensured that his music outlived fleeting trends. Where many pop songs fade with time, Andersson's work has remained relevant, performed by new generations of musicians and embraced by audiences worldwide. Ultimately, Benny Andersson's contribution lies in his belief that music should be both accessible and profound. By weaving joy with sorrow, simplicity with sophistication, and pop with timelessness, he built a legacy that transcends genre and era. His music isn't just listened to, it is lived and remembered. ABBA's glory and silent break. The late 1970s marked the absolute pinnacle of ABBA's success, and Benny Andersson stood at the very heart of it, together with Björn Ulvaeus, Agnetha Fältskog, and Annie Frid Lyngstad. Benny helped transform ABBA into a global sensation, dominating charts in Europe, America, and beyond. Songs like Dancing Queen, Take a Chance on Me, and Gimme, Gimme, Gimme cemented their position as international icons. At this point, ABBA was not only a band, but a cultural phenomenon, shaping the sound of pop music for an entire generation. Yet behind the glitter and success, personal storms were brewing. In 1979, Björn and Agnetha's marriage fell apart. Their divorce was not just a private heartbreak, it seeped into the music, giving rise to songs filled with melancholy beneath the polished production. Just 2 years later, in 1981, Benny himself split from Annifrid after falling in love with another woman. What once had been a tight-knit creative and personal circle began unraveling. ABBA's music during this period reflected the fractures within. Albums like The Visitors revealed a darker, more introspective tone compared to their earlier joyful hits. Songs such as When All Is Said and Done carried an unmistakable sense of emotional closure, the lyrics acting almost like confessions of broken hearts. The bright universal optimism of earlier ABBA had given way to music shaped by private sorrow. By 1982, the decline was visible. The band released Under Attack, a single that felt more like a farewell than a new beginning. Yet ABBA never held a formal breakup announcement. Instead, they faded away quietly, slipping into silence while leaving behind a catalog that continued to resonate worldwide. For Benny Andersson, this period was both the culmination of unmatched artistic triumph and the painful acknowledgement of how personal lives can fracture even the strongest creative bonds. ABBA's breakup. Truth revealed. For decades, fans of ABBA and admirers of Benny Andersson have speculated about the true cause of the band's quiet dissolution in the early 1980s. Rumors often swirled around broken marriages, personal disputes, or hidden scandals. But in a rare and deeply honest interview given between 2024 and 2025, Benny finally addressed the mystery head-on. His words surprised many because they revealed a truth that was far less dramatic, but infinitely more human. The breakup happened because of exhaustion, not conflict. Benny admitted that by the early 1980s, both he and the group had reached a point of creative burnout. The endless cycle of touring, writing, and recording had drained their passion. Success had become routine, and the sense of discovery that once defined their music was gone. As Benny put it, the last years of ABBA felt like clocking in for work rather than creating art. He emphasized that there was no betrayal, no secret feud, just a growing emptiness where inspiration used to be. He also explained that the band's perfectionist nature, especially his and Björn's approach to songwriting, contributed to the fatigue. Every note, every harmony was meticulously polished, but over time, that pursuit of perfection became a burden. When you stop feeling the joy in the process, Benny said, you are only performing the motions. The spark that once fueled their greatest hits simply wasn't there anymore. Benny stressed that the decision to stop was not only natural, but necessary. Continuing would have risked not just the quality of the music, but the well-being of the individuals themselves. To him, preserving their humanity mattered more than extending their fame. The quiet fade into silence in 1982 was, in his words, the most honest thing we could do. This confession reshaped the narrative around ABBA's legacy. Instead of an ending marked by scandal or bitterness, Benny revealed it as an act of self-preservation and integrity. The band ended because they respected themselves and their music enough not to force it when their hearts were no longer in it. In doing so, Benny Andersson reminded the world that sometimes the bravest choice is not to fight against endings, but to accept them as part of life's natural rhythm. Benny's new beginning, after the silent disbandment of ABBA in the early 1980s, each member embarked on very different paths. While the public often focused on the glittering careers and private lives of the group, Benny Andersson's story remained more understated yet deeply human. Among the many personal connections that endured, one of the most significant was his bond with Anni-Frid Lyngstad, better known as Frida. Frida's post-ABBA life took a dramatic turn when she married into European royalty, becoming a princess through her marriage to Prince Heinrich Russo-Reuss of Germany. Her life seemed like a fairy tale escape from the pop spotlight. However, in 1998, tragedy struck when her daughter, Lisa-Lotta, died in a car accident at just 30 years old. The devastating loss reshaped Frida's existence, forcing her into years of grief and self-reflection. Benny, though no longer her partner, remained a constant presence of quiet empathy. Having shared years of artistic triumph and personal closeness, he reached out in solidarity during her darkest hours. For Benny, this act was more than duty. It reflected the enduring emotional thread that bound ABBA's members together despite fame, heartbreak, and the distance of time. His willingness to comfort Frida was a reminder that beneath the stardom, they were still a family forged in music and memories. Benny himself, meanwhile, focused on creative projects that gave him purpose beyond ABBA's shadow. Yet his ability to stay connected to Frida in such a vulnerable chapter showed that his legacy was not just about music, but also about loyalty, compassion, and an understanding of shared humanity. Timeless returned to stage. For Benny Andersson, the story of ABBA did not end in the 1980s. In 2018, after decades of silence, the group surprised the world by reuniting in the studio and recording 2 new songs. This spark soon grew into something larger. In 2021, ABBA released Voyage, their first studio album in 40 years, paired with the ambitious digital concert project where 3D avatars performed instead of the band themselves. By 2022, the ABBA Voyage show in London became a sensation, selling over 1.3 million tickets and proving that nostalgia combined with innovation could rewrite music history. Yet, true to their spirit, ABBA declined a staggering $1 billion touring offer, choosing instead to remain faithful to their own terms of creativity. For Benny, this return was not only about music, but also about showing that artistry, authenticity, and vision endure across generations. The heart behind ABBA's sound. At the age of 78, Benny Andersson offered some of his most vulnerable confessions, finally peeling back the layers that had long been hidden beneath ABBA's glittering melodies. He admitted that for most of his life, music had been his way of both escaping and expressing emotions he could not voice aloud. With striking honesty, he said, "I saved my best words for the songs, not for the people who needed to hear them." For fans who had spent decades speculating about ABBA's silent breakup, Benny's late-life revelations provided clarity. He explained that the group did not fall apart because of betrayal or scandal, but because of fragility, the unbearable weight of confronting raw emotions that lay just beneath the surface. The studio, once a place of joy, gradually became a stage where hidden pain grew louder than any chorus. This truth, though bittersweet, allowed closure. Listeners came to understand that ABBA's catalog was never a mere dream world of disco lights and polished harmonies. It was a tapestry woven from the very real vulnerabilities of 4 individuals. For Benny, this honesty was liberating, transforming his life's work into something eternal. His confession revealed that behind every shimmering melody lived the unspoken truths of the human heart. and that is precisely why ABBA's music endures. The legacy of Benny Andersson. Looking back at Benny Andersson's journey, it becomes clear that his legacy extends far beyond the glittering success of ABBA. As the quiet architect behind many of the band's most enduring hits, Benny left behind a body of work defined by honesty, craftsmanship, and emotional depth. His music balanced joyful melodies with a touch of melancholy, a style that came to be known as Swedish melancholia, more than global fame or sold-out tours. Benny's true legacy lies in the way his songs continue to resonate with new generations. From Dancing Queen to The Winner Takes It All, his compositions speak to both the beauty and fragility of human experience. After ABBA, he continued exploring music through orchestral projects, film scores, and stage works, proving that his creativity never ceased. Even in his final reflections, Benny emphasized that music was his way of telling truths he couldn't otherwise express. That sincerity has ensured his place not just as a pop legend, but as a timeless storyteller. His songs remain living proof that honest music can outlast its moment, echoing in hearts long after the stage lights fade. Lessons from Benny Andersson's story, following the legacy he left behind. Benny Andersson's life reminds us that true artistry is not built on glamour or fleeting fame, but on honesty and persistence. His journey, from the early days with Hep Stars to the global phenomenon of ABBA, teaches us that creative expression flourishes when it remains sincere, even through exhaustion and heartbreak. The greatest lesson Benny imparts is that music, like life, carries its deepest meaning when it is authentic. His story shows us that lasting impact does not come from spectacle, but from crafting something real, heartfelt, and timeless.